Thank you, Henry. Now, moving on to our main story, climate change. The destruction of our planet's ability to sustain human life.
Now, some people may think that climate change doesn't exist, that it's a hoax invented by China. Trump says China wants to turn the Earth into a burning wasteland because U.S. manufacturing is too strong.
I'm not a believer in global warming. I'm not a believer in man-made global warming. It could be warming and it's going to start to cool at some point. And, in the 1920s, people talked about global cooling. I don't know if you know that or not. They thought the Earth was cooling.
Okay, what the heck? America isn't even leading in global manufacturing. According to the 2016 Global Manufacturing Index, 30% of China's GDP is spent on manufacturing, as compared to 12% for the United States. So, basically, China is making 720 billion more Happy Meal toys than the US.
And while opponents of climate change may tout the idea that a 1 degree increase of the average temperature of our planet from the 1880 to 1899 average as not being significant enough to claim that our planet's temperature is in fact steadily rising, 15 of the 16 hottest years on record have been since 2001, and this was in spite of the fact that 2007, 8, and 9 actually experienced a decline in the amount of sunlight that our planet received. So our planet actually spent less time sunbathing, but still got skin cancer.
Also, people deny climate change for the sake of simply arguing and echo chambers. First, an echo chamber may sound like that old furnace in your grandpa's basement that may or may not have been a torturing chamber 50 years ago, but an echo chamber is actually similar to the modern-day version of Plato's allegory to the cave. So, yeah, I guess this is a torture chamber. An echo chamber, according to thinkprogress.org, traditionally refers to situations where people surround themselves with information they want to hear and block out the rest. So, one buffoon says climate change isn't real, they tell everybody they know, people start believing it because they hear it everywhere, and the next thing you know, you got a bunch of people saying the same thing, forcing you to believe that what they are saying is the truth. In fact, one of the best examples of an echo chamber is Fox News. So, yeah, like I said earlier, torture.
In fact, climate change does truly exist. Humans are using fossil fuels as a source of power for almost everything they do, and a lot of that fuel, after it has been used up, is released as carbon dioxide. This increase in carbon dioxide, as well as other greenhouse gases in our atmosphere, is taking the heat that otherwise would be radiated out into space and reflecting it back, warming the Earth. And while China may be hot and bothered by its American competition, the environmental impact of its temper tantrum won't be nearly as strong as our atmosphere slowly deteriorating beyond its capacity to sustain human life.
Climate change doesn't just hurt our planet in the future, it hurts us right now. In fact, tomorrow's weather's forecast includes such natural disasters as radioactive blizzards falling out of the sky and overthrowing the government, Dr. Fitz's blinding cranium, and another day where Prophet Osberger does a great assignment. However, today there is an increase in chemicals in the air, exposing lung tissues to more issues. In fact, according to the EPA, changes in air pressure caused by the ozone layer shrinking causes natural disasters. So blame climate change for the next 75 lizard apocalyptic polar vortexes, and for the movie Whale Rider.
Another thing that those chemicals cause is an increase in the acidity of our waterways. This can wreak havoc on the natural ecosystems that are already there. And while the levels may never increase to the point where last year's class night ban's float disintegrates into Lake Bloomington, which may or may not actually be a bad thing, I would still like to be able to enjoy a nice fillet of fish without feeling like my esophagus is melting. That's what bleach is for.
There are ways we can first show people climate change is real, and second, reduce the effects of climate change on the globe. By simply stating the facts about climate change and showing depressing videos of polar bears losing their igloo homes, we can slowly convince people this is an issue we need to solve. By visiting websites like NASA or EPA.gov, we can show people facts and answer their questions. We're the future of this planet. We need to make sure we protect it. We also need to make sure candy corn isn't eaten anymore, because if people keep eating it, who knows what the terrible future this planet might have.
The best way in which we can reduce humans' contribution to climate change is to actively work to reduce all the harmful practices that we have. For example, there are already numerous companies around the globe that have endeavored to control practices that may hurt the environment, such as Vivint Solar, an energy company that uses heat from the sun instead of oil or natural gas for power, as well as the electric car company Tesla. Speaking of cars, One thing that everyone says that we need to do is get rid of gas cars in favor of electric, but personally, I think everyone should get horse-drawn carriages, and that way we'd be able to say things like this.
But if your hand touches metal, I swear by my pretty floor bonnet, I will end you.
Another thing that we can do is plant trees in order to convert carbon dioxide into oxygen. In this way, maybe 1 or 2 trees might actually be planted on Arbor Day, making it a more celebrated holiday than Mother's Day, where the only special thing that happens is the children wait to insult their mother's cooking until she leaves the room.
We hope you guys understand that we need to get into our bomb shelters because the world is going to end without some change. On that note, let's move to our next story, the Jim Kelly phenomenon.